Hi guys, welcome back. It's another grooming session, and if you've been following along, this is Emma, my gorgeous Emma. I continue to forget to move the muck bucket, so I get to start and then walk off camera, which is, I'm sure, fantastic skills for YouTube. What can I tell you? So if you've been, again, following along, last week you saw Fanta get groomed. Fanta is our elderly, one of our two elderly original OG goats. Emma is our other one. And if you compare the two, which of course you can do when you see them in the pasture, or you can look at the two videos, you know, they're both very, very different goat types in terms of their looks. Now, of course, they're both 14, so they're both very senior, but Fanta really has virtually no coat whatsoever, right? She has hair, but it's just a short coat that covers her skin. It doesn't really, there's not much that hangs, there's not much length to anything, and she just never really got her coat in, despite having fantastic genetics for it. Emma, on the other hand, still maintains a pretty hefty coat. It's gotten shorter over the years as, you know, breakage happens and it doesn't grow back quite as fast. But she still has a pretty well-established coat. I don't cut it unless it requires it. And thankfully with her coat, it doesn't really require it. Her coat texture has gotten more coarse over the years, so she doesn't necessarily have that silky sheen anymore. But you know what? She's 14. The fact that she even has a coat anymore is pretty incredible. So what we're doing here, as always, is this is her spring brush out. That means we're getting all of that cashmere undercoat out of her coat. We're getting her ready for the summer. And I am going to give her a quick bathe and condition so that she feels nice and clean and has an opportunity to start fresh and getting dirty. Whoa, and if you heard that, wow, that was a baby goat crying. I don't know if you heard it because sometimes the mic cuts that out. But if you did hear it, that would be Ladybug, our new little goat, who is still a bottle baby, letting me know that she can hear me, right? And we're getting closer to afternoon feeding time. We are in the process of weaning her, so her morning feeding wasn't quite as much as she used to get, right? So she's probably hungry already, and it's still about an hour before her afternoon feeding. So you might hear her holler at us a little bit. And that is okay, fine. She's not starving by any means, right? She's just being weaned. She has plenty of other food to eat, and she has to learn to start to eat like a big girl goat. And well, by the time you see this video, she might actually be fully weaned. But for the moment, as of recording, we just started weaning this week, and it'll be at least 3 to 4 weeks before she's fully weaned. So, you know, we don't do this where we just say, no more bottle, you're done. No, we slowly reduce the quantity in her bottle, and then we go ahead and allow her to learn to rely more on the hay and the grain that she has access to, but isn't eating because she's full from the bottle. So you have to give that transition, just like the moms would. So anyway, I just finished Emma's hooves before we got started. Again, if you guys have been following for a while, you know that I don't do the hooves on camera because I use a hoof grinder. It's called a Hoof Boss. It's linked below in the description box. It's also tagged in the video itself. So you're welcome to check that out if you need it. If you don't need it, don't check it out. But interestingly, I changed out my grinding disc last week, and it's been about 5 years, right? And I don't know how long a grinding disc is supposed to last. I just assumed it would last for a while and somehow I would magically know. Well, you know, I had been grinding away at hooves for the last 5 years or so with the same grinding disc. I don't change it out. We use the same one for all the goats. And I don't have a ton of goats, right? I'm not doing dozens and dozens of goats a week. I'm doing 2 to 3 goats a week. So in the scheme of things, you know, it lasted a lot of trims over those 5 years, or a lot of hoof trims over those 5 years, but certainly wasn't, abused or in a commercial herd where we were doing, 30 goats a day kind of thing, because then I think it would have lasted a couple of months. But I sort of noticed that it was taking me an awful long time to get the hooves done. And yes, it takes longer to do hooves with the Hoof Boss as a grinder versus just cutting. And I happen to like the action better. I like the precision I get with it. I like the shape of the hooves better that I can get with a grinder versus cutting. So I prefer it, just even though it takes a little bit longer. So yeah, I finally bought a new grinding disc and swapped it out. And I used it last weekend when I groomed the boys for the first time. And oh, by the way, if you've been missing our boys, you're going to continue to miss them for a little while. I was having a bad week last week, and I couldn't do it. I needed to get the boys done. They were a hot mess because, they're boys and that's just how they are. Their grooming was going to I knew it was going to take forever. I didn't even really have the time to get it done. I was stressed with all the other stuff that was going on, work, personal, blah, 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 all the standard stuff. I was just having a day. And I made a decision that I was not going to be recording while I did them. I threw my headset on, I put an ebook in, and I sort of tuned out the world for 5.5 hours while I groomed and bathed and conditioned 2 bucks. So the next time you see the bucks, 1, they'll be all pretty because I did all that work. But 2, you'll just see a standard groom on them. And that's probably better anyway. Nobody wants to watch me groom goats for hours on end. Got stuff in my face, got stuff in my hair. So at any rate, what I was saying was I used the Hoof Boss with my new grinding disc for the first time last week. And holy moly at the difference, not only in the speed that I could get it done, but in, like how much better the grind was, and that happens with everything that you need to replace once in a blue moon, right? It kind of degrades slowly, so you don't realize how fast it's or how bad it's gotten, right? Because it's happened slowly over time. And then you finally replace it and you're like, oh my God, it's so much better. What have I been doing? Well, yeah, that's where I was. So it was kind of nice because with these old gals, having the grinder move faster meant they didn't have to balance on their legs as long. And balancing, I'm glad I have the side rails, but balancing on one leg, well, not one leg, let's rephrase. Balancing, I got distracted by the birds. We'll talk about that in a second. Balancing on 3 legs is harder when you're 14 years old and you're an old lady. It's hard for me to balance on one leg, that's why we have to do balance exercises and all that to keep ourselves fit and trim. Well, it's the same thing with the goats, right? It's harder for them to balance. Just move the muck bucket out of the way so it doesn't get full of water. It's harder for them to balance when they're older. So balancing on 3 legs while I'm grinding away is tougher on them. They lean on the side rails, but it's still a little bit tougher on them. And having the grind be faster was really nice. And that was kind of the whole point of the story that I dragged out forever. So let me tell you what got me distracted. I've talked about before, right? We try and prevent birds from actively nesting in the barn for multiple reasons. One is the ones that don't nest in the barn are always starlings, and starlings are an invasive species. I have a short video on that a couple of weeks ago. You're welcome to check it out. It got a lot of play, a lot of opinions. And I love to hear the opinions, but at the end of the day, starlings are an invasive species. So I don't want to encourage them to be nesting in the barn and having this beautiful, safe space where they can raise tons of babies and, continue to grow their population when they technically don't belong here. But we have them, right? They find ways anyway, just not as many of them. So the starlings are currently, the babies are getting close to fledging at this point, at the time of recording. By the time you see this, they will long have fledged. So they're loud. And of course, that sound sometimes distracts me because it's almost like a built-in alarm system, right? If the babies all start firing off, it means one of two things. Either a parent has arrived with food delivery, or something is going on. And I had just seen the barn cats out this stall, directly outside of this stall. Actually, they're both there right now. So sometimes I wonder, like, is the barn cat up in the rafters? Are they chasing down the fledglings? And again, we're not going to talk about that. I already covered that in a video. Yes, the barn cats can and do go after the fledglings. I don't necessarily love that, but at the same time, it is nature and they are an invasive species. And at some point, you kind of have to let the balance happen, right? But we do things to prevent that, right? I'm not setting up a mass execution system here. It's pretty well set up to allow it to be balanced. But what I noticed and what totally distracted me when I, couldn't finish a sentence is there were barn swallows hanging out up in the rafters. We have barn swallows on the property, of course, and they get their name from roosting in barns, but they have never actually roosted here or spent time in the barn. They're typically, over the pond or out in the woods. Again, that's fine. I don't have any problem with them not being in the barn. But it's interesting that they were finally here after all these years. So I was just kind of, whoa, look at that, squirrel. Totally fascinated. Couldn't continue my train of thought. Not surprising. It happens all the time with me. I know. So at any rate, that's what distracted me completely. And I'm super excited because the barn swallows are absolutely welcome to be here. Now, again, I don't necessarily want them raising entire families here in the barn or becoming more of a pet in the barn than anything else. And the other reason that we try and discourage the birds from nesting and roosting and being in the barn all the time is just bird poop, right? I don't necessarily want bird poop on everything. Bird poop on our feed bins, bird poop in our water buckets, bird poop everywhere. It happens. It's a barn. It's open. There's no stopping it. But at the very least, we can deter it a little bit and potentially prevent any transmission of disease simply through the deterrent of not having birds living full time in the barn. You can't stop it, right? Unless you're going to lock the barn up like Fort Knox and never have fresh air and never allow the animals outside and all that, you're going to get birds in the barn. That's just part of it. But we have bird netting up. We have we have sharp stakes up on the rafters to prevent them from sitting on the rafters, right? They can fly through. There's plenty of tunnel for them. There is safe spots to be. And if you look at my walls, they aren't without some bird poop on them. Bird poop happens. But we try and, again, sort of have a balance and strike it so that it's not as detrimental to the health and well-being of our animals or detrimental to the health and well-being of the barn, right? We put this barn up. We built it from, well, I didn't build it. The builders built it. We customized, we designed it, and then the company came out and built it. So I don't want to take credit where credit isn't due. I just want to brush her through on this side before I switch. While that conditioner sits in, I just want to make sure it's through all her coat. So yeah, we do try and deter the birds from really spending, copious amounts of time in here. It's a safe spot for them. They can spend some time in here. That's not a problem. Certainly, certain times of the year, like this time of the year, there's more activity than others. But it's kind of striking and finding that balance between what's safe, what's healthy, and what's appropriate. And, Barn swallows are native. They're welcome. They're beautiful little birds. They're a lot of fun to watch. We have swifts as well, so chimney swifts. We also have, a couple of other swifts on the property, and they love the pond, right? But the best part about having the swifts and the swallows on the property is when Farm Hubby is mowing in the summertime, and he's running the lawnmower, and the bugs are, they're popping up from the grass as he's mowing. And you can literally see an entire flock of swifts and swallows that follows behind the lawnmower, snapping up those bugs that he's displacing left and right. And it's just a big old feeding frenzy, and it's the most fun thing to watch. No, I'm not fascinated by watching him drive the mower around. That doesn't do it for me. But watching the birds follow the mower and swoop in and grab the bugs and then kind of form into a line, and they literally form a line, which is hilarious. You can almost watch them, change position, right? Bird in position 1 swoops in, gets his or her bug, then shifts to the back of the flock while it eats, and it eats on the wing, of course. We're just about out of shampoo. You might get the new batch. I try and get every last bit I can out of this, though. So sorry about the squishy noises. I think we're just about there, though. We're going to give it one last good shake. A little centrifugal force there to get everything down to the bottom. I might be able to squeak her out on this bottle. But yeah, that one's done. So we're going to set that aside for recycling. And I have a fresh bottle here, but let's see if we can finish you out with what we got. So anyway, yeah, the birds are hilarious when he mows. Again, just as a reference, you guys are seeing me scratch my nose or rub my nose. By the time I'm allergic to all things. I really am. It's really terrible. I'm allergic to all the things in the environment, including animals and hay and dust and pollen and trees. And, yeah, it's a perfect person to be living on a farm. But this up close grooming, especially at this time of the year, sets me off pretty hard. And this is the second goat of the day. By the time I'm on the third or fourth goat of the day, I can't keep my nose from actively trying to, get scratched off my face. It's running, I'm sniffling. It's just a whole lot of fun. So sorry if you see that. It's not intentional. And I don't do it all the time. So if you see me out in the real world, I'm not going to be my nose all the time. It's only here in the barn. Or at least I hope it is. Maybe it's unconsciously happening. You'll have to tell me if you ever see me and I do it. At any rate, we're going to get her done because I'm babbling and not finishing what I'm supposed to be doing here. And she's about done with us, right? She's a little bit more tolerant than Fanta is, but she also is ready to be done. The one concession, guys, and I said this in Fanta's grooming, is I don't really do their heads anymore. I don't want to make them go through all that water running over their face and, potentially making them accidentally inhale a little bit of water. They instinctively hold their breaths just like we would, but at the same time, their heads, they got no hair on their heads. Their heads aren't that dirty. They don't need to be shampooed and conditioned up there. And it's one step that we can skip on these old gals and give them a break. What I will not skip is the conditioning of their coat, or or the conditioning spray, or the final brush out, or any of the things that it's, even though they may not recognize it, is actually going to make them feel so good. So that is what's going on right here. I'm loving the bird life that's happening and that I can hear. I'm watching out the stall door here, and the cats are in the high grass doing some sort of stalking. Could be bugs, it could be anything, who knows. They're not actually coming up with anything. I think they're just playing, frankly. But that's okay. They need the practice. This is the time of the year where I don't see the cats as much in the barn. They spend a lot of time out and around the pastures. They, I have all this hair stuck on me. They spend a lot of the day and the night outside. They nap in the woods instead of in the barn. They go ahead. And yes, I'm rinsing this side, even though the other side's been sitting longer, because she's just about done with me. I'm not done rinsing her. I just want to put a brush through her before I fully rinse her out and get these last few things that are loosened up from the shampoo and the conditioner. Then we'll go to the other side and finish out. There's no need for me to spend even the 30 seconds or so to switch sides when she's at the point where she's clearly annoyed. She's clearly done. She's not in pain. She's not uncomfortable. She's not choking or stuck or anything else. Actually, if she wanted to, she could get out from that head harness. She's just done with being up on the stand, and in respect of her and her elderly position in my herd, we're going to get her done faster by just moving through everything a little bit speedier, which means I might not talk quite as much for the last few minutes here. But all that dead hair, it's not breaking off. It's not hair breakage. It's just dead hair that is loose, and now with the shampoo and the conditioner has been loosened to the point that it can come out. It's stuff that would normally shed out one strand at a time. It's not anything that's obviously depleting from her coat in any way, shape, or form. It's just, we're getting out so much of that dead buildup, dead ends, split ends, all the things that you actually as a human want to get your hair cut for to keep your hair healthy and sound. Well, it's the same thing for her. So one more quick brush through, a spray on this side, and then we'll get to the other side and we'll get her done and off the stand. I still want to do at least one more goat today, maybe two. I may end up not recording all of them, depending on how my battery is holding up and how my voice is holding up and whether I run out of things to say or not. I don't seem to ever run out of things to say, and I don't know how that's even possible. I really don't. And I'm such an introvert normally, so y'all are getting the side of me that not everybody gets to see. Maybe that's why I'm all pent up. I have all this energy from not talking to people in real life. At any rate, so that side's done. Let's get her other side done and get her off the stand back in the stall with her friends and figure out who we're going to do next. My original plan was to do JC next, which is Emma's daughter, just because I'm working from oldest to youngest today. But I may grab Lotus instead, because Lotus is in the stall with Emma and Fanta, and I'll just be in there as I return Emma. So I may just grab Lotus. We'll see how it goes. Who's left to get done is Lotus, JC, Sock Monkey, and Denali. Now, you've seen Denali. Denali would help if I rinsed you out first, wouldn't it? Denali had her grooming, her spring brush out. I had to do that in 2 sessions, so you've already seen that. That was horrendous, and one of the reasons why I just decided that I was not recording the boys, because they were just as bad, just as long. So Denali needs to be shampooed and conditioned, but she's also going to need another light brush out because it's been a couple of weeks since her brush out, and she was not done shedding, so she's got more stuff coming out of her coat. So yeah, I've got 4 more to go to finish the herd, and if I can do at least 1 more today, then that means I only have to do 3 tomorrow. If I can do 4 today, it means 2 tomorrow. I would love to say I can do 6 today. I can't. I just can't. I mean, well, okay, let me rephrase. I could. It would be absolutely miserable for me. There's a piece of me that wants to do that because it would be a lot more efficient. I wouldn't have to clean everything up, put everything away, and then take it all out again tomorrow. So there's that part. But there's also the part of just, spending hours here on my feet. I've already done a couple of weekends of, multiple, like practically full days down here. So, Denali's session, even though you saw it in 2 pieces, I did it in 1 piece, and it was a 3-hour session. So she was the only goat I did that day. The boys I did together because I was starting to run behind. They took a combined total of 5.5 hours, and I did that again all in a single day. This is only hour 1 because these guys are a little bit easier to groom, and I'm not show grooming them. And they're not as messy just based on their age and their issues. So I don't know. I don't know if I do one more and say, okay, I put in 2 hours and call it a day, or if I try and make it another marathon session, do 3 or 4 hours today and see how far I get, and maybe only leave Denali for tomorrow. I don't know. We'll see how things go. I'll let you know the outcome when I figure it out. But for now, I hope you enjoyed. I know I enjoyed spending the time with you. And until next time, I've got work to do. Bye for now.